Who Corner to Corner podcast, you join us on this very windy and very rainy night, and it's very spooky out there, and it's perfect for us to bring you a shocking tale of terror as we take, as one of our main guests tonight takes his first look at the haunting of Villa Diodati. Good evening, Mr. Aldua. How are you, sir?
I'm very good. Good. Your guests, your viewers rather, are going to be like, he hasn't watched the last one, and he hasn't watched it. What the hell has he watched?
What has he watched? But that's the whole point of these first time kind of episodes, isn't it? It's the first time that you'd see one of these, and we get to record your reactions in real time for the delight and delectation of our lovely listeners.
And I dipped in and out of this one, and obviously we scanned some of the stuff in this one.
Yes.
And then we can chat about that afterwards. But there's some interesting little anecdotes.
Yeah,
and stuff, so.
Brilliant. Well,
cool beans.
We discovered, Paul, that there's a couple of episodes we haven't seen.
We did, didn't we?
There's various classics
Literally
I haven't seen, but and your one that you hadn't seen was because it was lost, so you had a fairly good excuse for not having seen it so far.
Well, do you know what? Also, I'm gonna add the Savages onto that as well, because those episodes were lost way before I was born and brought into this world.
Yeah.
So when that comes out on a shiny Blu-ray media and a lovely steelbook, I shall be watching it for sure.
Yeah, that's fairly soon now, isn't it?
Yeah. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
So we're gonna fire up Haunting of Villa Diodati tonight, and
try saying that when you've had a few, eh? Hey, the Haunting of Villa Diodati, Villa Dilettanti.
That's the one.
Absolutely magical.
So this episode is, this will come as no surprise to anyone, is one of my favourites, but this is an episode that I think even many of the staunchest dislikers of 13's era would say they liked. So it's going to be interesting to see what you think of it, Al, and which just sort of inadvertently implied you were a staunch disliker of the era.
I think it's fair to say I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy the tenure much, but I think it's also fair to say part of the reason this one initially niggled me was if you follow the big finish with the stuff which in theory is canon, then frankly the Doctor had already met Mary Shelley.
Yes.
Yeah, we haven't talked about this before, did we?
First rodeo with Mary Shelley and Cybermen. So it slightly niggled right off the cuff even before I'd seen it, because I'd sort of got a presse up front. I have to say with a ton of security as well, but I've got a presse of that whole season, and one of the things that came up was, oh wait, no, Doctor Who's got to meet Mary Shelley, and I was going like, well, Doctor Who's already met Mary Shelley in a previous incarnation, so that's a big get out of jail card.
Yeah. So
this is true.
Various things like that, isn't there, through Doctors meeting,
well, indeed, and
being
don't
in the
forget,
same place.
We've also got three different versions, three totally incompatible versions of Atlantis within the Doctor Who universe as well, and lots of various things.
Origin stories of the Cybermen,
absolutely,
the universe and the other universe, and various. So
before I forget, I'll just
space, I suppose.
Well, yes, I suppose that there's some ways around it all. I live in a little village just outside of Horsham, and this is where I believe Percy Shelley lived for some time. Because we have the Shelley Arms pub here and Shelley School, and my kids go and various other things. So yes, he was from around here, but I'm not sure whether Mary was involved here or not.
Well, I can answer a little bit of that for you, because my daughter goes to university in Bournemouth, and there is a pub called the Mary Shelley, which her and her student chums often frequent, and apparently Mary Shelley is buried at thereabouts somewhere, so spent some time. So there you go, a little tenuous link, very tenuous link there. So
all right, that's
funny. I hadn't associated either of those two characters with being. It's weird, isn't it? You just kind of, I kind of just have a sort of mental image of, Byron and all sort of mincing around in a pre-Raphaelite landscape, enjoying picnics and a bit of grumpy pumpy, and bit, so it's quite interesting that one's.
It's funny you should say about Rumpy Pumpy and frolicking and stuff. As we will watch the story unfold before our very eyes, you might well see a little bit of that. Not going to give anything away.
Doctor Who.
In Doctor Who.
Well, I hope it is, and not coming from your camera angle, Paul.
Oh, hold on. Have I queued the right thing up? Yeah. Right. Shall we crack on then? Do you want to count us down, Jeff?
Yes. Well, I'll count up to 3.
Oh, all right. Are we going on 3 or 3 and?
Go on 3. Yeah.
On 3. Okay. Right.
1, 2, 3.
There we go.
Oh, bit rainy and stormy. Lake Geneva.
It was a dark and stormy night
around
Lake Geneva.
Accurately recreated this on the opening for this
in
podcast.
The year of our Lord, 1816.
I still say the same thing. 13th Doctor visual effects were bloody brilliant, and
really good.
This is spot on, 100% thumbs up from me, purely down to already setting the scene. It feels authentic, feels real.
That's a good start. We're only 30 seconds in.
I love the richness of the colours.
Yeah. It looks
the lighting as well. It's grim, isn't it? It's very dark. Yeah, it's candlelight.
It is, and it's so good though, isn't it? Because it would have been candlelight, and maybe the odd chandelier when there was a party or something. But
of course, we've got Dr. Polidori in this as well, haven't we? I'd forgotten about this guy because we always talk about Byron and Shelley and Mary Shelley and everything else, and we also got Polidori in here as well, who was a bit of a figure in his lifetime. Yeah,
they were sort of celebs, really, weren't they? Hanging out here all together.
They were like the hot young things. They were probably like a very literary version of the Kardashians, maybe. I don't know.
Well, they were so famous, and this whole, telling ghost stories around the fire is an age-old thing, isn't it? It's fabulous.
I quite like the way here that Mary Shelley is quite up for a bit of the, the horror and stuff, and curdle the blood, and
But I like that because it would have been surprising if she wasn't. What she'd done, but I like that she's at least as equal and up there.
I think that's. I could be mistaken, but I think that's a direct quote from something she was reported to have said anyway.
I think so.
On the night, because I think this whole thing was kind of her idea.
Yes,
possibly. Yeah. I love the butler in this because he's just got to put up with these young things.
Yeah, it looks
for
really
a night.
Yeah, he
and all their nonsense.
Like this is his worst nightmare, maybe.
Yeah. Exactly. He gets a babysit. The teams.
Oh yes, sir. More champagne, sir. Getting arsehole tonight, are we, sir?
Yeah, it's kind of privileged literati of the British upper classes.
Oh, of course they're all getting a bit scared here, aren't they, as well?
Yeah, well, there's something banging on the door, isn't it? Again, this is classic Hammer in a way, isn't it? Which obviously Doctor Who has done a lot of in the past.
Has anyone noticed
with good reason.
How Mary very much resembles Jodie?
Yeah.
That was
brilliant.
Funny.
Loved that.
That was a proper carry-on screaming moment, wasn't it?
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether I like that or not because I quite like my drama straight, and that was a bit Red Dwarf for my liking.
What the reaction shot?
This sort of reaction shot.
Yeah, it kind of sets the scene, gets even darker and even creepier, and suddenly it's rah! Like a cat.
I will make a comment here that bit doesn't entirely work because you see him open glass doors and then their reaction. So you can see there, look, the windows. So
maybe that's the point. Maybe it's that they're not.
I think it is.
Or they're kind of at the French windows.
Yeah, or maybe they were in the dark and he didn't see them initially, but and there are some shutters out there as well. But I love how they're all in costume here and dressed up, and we just watched some of Talons of Wen Chiang, didn't we, earlier in the week?
Wen Chiang, yes.
Yeah,
and one of my favourite stories.
Yeah, it's a great one, but it's nice that the Doctor and Leela were in period outfit in there and really kind of getting into it. And
come on, Leela, I'll buy you a muffin.
That's it, toasted crumpets at the end. So this is written by Maxine Alderton, who wrote The Worst Witch, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is one of the stories, one of the TV shows both my daughters really enjoy, actually. So, sorry, Al, go on. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say it's nice that the real people look kind of correct. These guys look a little bit, and I guess it's deliberate, like they've turned up in cosplay almost. They're not quite fitting kind of stuff. They're not quite tailored, if that makes sense. I don't quite like that. It kind of makes them feel a bit right from the off, like they're not quite fitting in.
Yeah, agreed. Well, again, sort of when we were talking about what the talents of Wen Chiang, we were looking at how the Doctor almost likes to put on a costume and sort of play act his way into an assumed role.
Yes.
Within that kind of setting, and again, the Doctor's doing a similar kind of thing here with their chums.
And that bit there where she sort of hyped it all up a bit. We're going to go and meet Shelley and everyone, and they're just rolling around on the floor like drunk, teens or something.
Exactly that.
And there's
and they do a little.
You might have seen
whatever this sort of thing's called.
There's a outtakey bit from this scene where someone on the crew has played some banging trance or something, and they're all dancing to it.
Really?
And Jodie's like stomping around dancing. It's really good, funny, but especially when they're in those kind of outfits.
I quite like the fact that she looks like this isn't her first rodeo in dancing. She's kind of and she's almost sort of like slightly doing it tongue in cheek.
Look at him. It's the bored butler again.
He keeps rolling his eyes, doesn't he?
He's forced to play the piano.
Yeah.
So at the moment, there is very much a sort of camp tone to it, isn't it? You know, it's almost like it's not quite taking itself seriously right at this moment. So it's kind of going against expectations, I think, until we start to see moments like this. You know, when you see a baby in a crib near a window with lightning flashing outside it, you know something spooky is going to go on here, I think.
I quite like that bit as well. Jodie's trying to sort of egg them on to start writing. All there.
What was that? Yeah, something throwing a vase around.
Yeah.
Another quadrille. Yeah. No one's in the mood for any serious ghost story writing right now, are they? They just want to have a bit of fun.
She's just trying to get them back on track.
Yeah. So one of the things I like about this, which I started to say a minute ago actually, was the fact that Doctor Who obviously does a lot of Hammer and horror pastiche. You know, it sort of goes down to that, and and this is the story of Frankenstein, the genesis of Frankenstein, which is one of the biggest pillars of that Hammer House library of wonderful things.
Yeah.
It all starts here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So this is almost like, in a way, it's kind of that sort of Doctor Who looking at its own roots. It's almost a little bit self-referential. And which is why I love the fact that it's, even at this point, a few minutes in, it's still going against expectations. Yeah, it's kind of creepy, and it's given us all these things, but it's also very camp. And then suddenly we get a bloody hand coming out of a painting and skittering across the floor. So I must admit, the first time I was watching this, I was thinking, what the hell is going on? Because it's such a mixture of different things, and yet... I don't know how many times I've seen it, but I still can't take my eyes off it.
Yeah, I agree. I think up to now it's really good. I think the only thing that slightly niggled me so far is the I really don't like stories where the Doctor kind of comes in and triggers historical events. Like they were talking about ghosts anyway, so the Doctor was sort of turning up and saying, "How about writing a really amazing ghost story?" It feels a little bit forced, rather than it's like, oh, here's history, take it all in. It feels like, oh, we're pushing history, and I'm not as keen on that. I just think that.
But is that what's actually happening here, though, Al? That's the thing. I think the Doctor's trying to push it on, but as you'll see, it's not quite going the way that she wants it to. She's not really influencing things. I don't think she's trying to get things back on track as such, but there's something else happening here in the background.
There's a lot of fast cuts. I do like the hand. That was pretty cool. I'm guessing that is a Cyberman, but I could be wrong. But I find to pin.
I shall pass no comment on that.
No, we shall see. They're right next to it, that painting, aren't they? These two now.
Oh, and yeah, she's got the hots for someone that she can't have, hasn't she? Which is obviously very similar for Yaz.
Yeah, I think has she got the hots of Polidori again?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, because yes, does she say something like, they don't see you properly or something like that?
His eye do seem to wander.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think she named who it is yet. It's very weird. I'm kind of watching it with subtitles, so I've got the sound down, but I've seen it so many times I can almost hear the sound.
Mm. Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because
it's the very definition of that cliche, the dark and stormy night so far. Yeah. But they're seeing things, aren't they? They start to creep themselves out, I think.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Oh, she does one of my favourite moments in this episode with a hat.
Oh, yeah.
And he's a right lech, and he's...
Well, Byron's starting coming on to it now, isn't he? Mrs. Doctor, I like that as well. Yeah. They call her Mrs. Doctor.
Shelley's not there. I wonder where they filmed this. It's a great location.
It's the one thing they got right with her. I would say, so that sounds terrible. Sounds like the one thing they got right. But the fact that the Doctor is
one of the many things they got right for her. There you go. I'll put it right for you.
Yeah, this interpretation is that the Doctor is asexual and literally wouldn't notice a come on if it danced down the street with a big placard saying "This is a come on."
Yeah.
It's. I think that has always been. I can trace a lineage from that kind of thing, and the 13th Doctor straight back to the 4th and before, where it's like, it doesn't matter how besotted somebody is with them, they just kind of like, really?
Yeah, just don't see it. Yeah.
Paul McGann was excellent at
yes, definitely.
Which is exactly what happens with 13, and it just makes me think of a moment in Rosa where she's in the hotel room, and I think it's in the hotel room, and Graham puts his arm round her when they're sort of pretending to be husband and wife, and she just does this little look at his hand on her shoulder as if to say, like, what are you doing? Like, because she got no idea, and it kind of throws her a bit. Yeah, so I think you're right there with that, Al. And she's oblivious to all this, Yaz and everything.
This is quite good though. They've all split up, and we're getting little snippets of story and personality from each of them. So I quite.
Yeah, there's quite a fair bit of character stuff going on, isn't there? A lot of interaction between different couples. There you go, Jeff. It was the Merthyr Mawr estate, which was the location for the villa's interiors. Apparently, somewhere in Wales. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Apologies to the Welsh people if I haven't.
Yeah. Oh, a little bit ominous there.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of ominousness. Graham is kind of a bit of a comedy shtick in this, isn't he? I think running from door to door, getting more and more confused as he hunts down the toilet, or tries to at least.
He's got the chamber pot.
Not a Kazi.
Oh yeah.
Oh, this is so Ryan suddenly finds himself challenging Polidori to a deal.
Like is that there's no kind of having to explain his ethnicity away. And I think that's the thing that people forget, is that Britain has been multicultural for a very long time.
Absolutely, yeah.
Even back in this day and age, and before, there was, go back to the Roman Empire, there was colour had literally nothing to do with it. You were as likely to find a very wealthy coloured merchant as you were a Caucasian one, and probably even Chinese and various big sections of England were.
Oh, here comes the hand.
Face hugger.
It does look a bit like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's a bone.
It's bone.
Yeah, it is.
Oh my God, it is a face hugger.
Yeah, or a neck hugger. Strangler. Strangling Ryan at the moment. Now this is some of that great sort of play acting, isn't it? Like Christopher Eccleston with the plastic hand in Rose.
Yeah.
Similar ending as well.
Pan it to dust.
It's very old bones, Al. Again, this is a very doctorish moment, licking the dust and and immediately figuring out where it comes from, how old it is.
She very 10 and 11, that, isn't
it?
Yes,
yeah. He licks the wood, didn't he, in Tooth and Claw, and when they go to the telescope room or the library, and Jodie does it with the Earth, and It Takes You Away, doesn't she?
She does. I think the Fourth Doctor does it a few times as well, actually, or sniffs the air and
there's a bit of a finger in the air and stuff.
It's kind of a recurring conceit, a bit of fun, within Doctor Who. And of course, with the Eighth Doctor, you get that thing where he's immediately telling people's future, isn't he?
Yeah. But going back to what you were saying earlier, Al, about the candlelight, this whole lot is fantastically lit, and I wonder whether they shot all at night or whether they blacked out outside the windows and a permanent rain machine.
It really is, and I'm guessing they know how to do it, and I'm sure they do, but considering it's in HD and the light can be a big issue with HD, it's the fact that they've done it.
It's not blowing out anywhere, and it's still all visible, even though it's dark and moody. There's no kind of there you go. I love a plume.
I love a plume, mate.
Can you do a plume hat accessory, Al? Any chance of one of them?
I'm sure for you, Jeff. Rustle up a good plume.
The thing is, as well, the Doctor doesn't realise how ridiculous she looks in this, which is again so Doctorish, isn't it?
But it's very Fez,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's the same energy.
You're trying to work out what she's wearing. She's got her coat on, and then there's a waistcoat with a patterned shirt underneath it, I think, and or maybe it's just a waistcoat. As you can see a T-shirt there.
Now that's feasible to do. We could do that because it could be part of the PVC wrap of the coat, so that's feasible to do.
Yeah, that would be a cool one. You could do an Ashad and Villa Diodati 13.
Wow.
Steady on.
Across the nation, people are stirring listening to this now.
You said what?
Yeah, I'm not putting any words into anyone's mouth.
Ashad turned out to be one of the most bloody expensive figures I ever scanned. It was a freaking nightmare.
Really? Because of all the bits on the suit?
Oh, it was a nightmare. We went down there and we scanned it. And it's silver and very reflective. And it's completely asymmetric. So it wasn't just a case of flipping it. So when they took it back, Andrew Teal, who was doing the sculpting on it, basically had to literally look at reference photos and go back over everything and clean up every little detail. So what should have cost, I think about £1,500, I think ended up costing about £7,500 because it was just ages and ages of clean up and rework and fixing, only to never do it.
And then not to do it. Yes, you're right, because certainly the face is not symmetrical, is it? And then the suit, one arm is different to the other, I think.
Because of all the damage, and part of it was transparent, which I don't know if it shows up on film, but there was like a silvery, semi-transparent material, and then he had the sort of Morbius one arm, I think, and it's a sort of hodgepodge, but it was literally nothing symmetrical, so all the detail had to be cleaned up individually. So just because it was silver, it just bounced around and it just became all kind of like fuzzy detail. So Andrew, in fairness, basically
saved
millions of Doctor Who fans, thousands. Hey, how can I get Andrew's email address and get the data off him? It's not going to work. It's my data.
Nobody else's. So this is where things start getting a little bit weird in the villa, isn't it? When they trying to leave one room and find themselves walking back into the same room.
This is interesting about the baby. There's a whole lot of little twists in here that are kind of coming to fruition, I suspect.
She can't get back to it.
Where's the baby?
It's gone.
The windows are open.
Yeah.
It is exactly Hammer horror, exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Baby's missing, the windows are open and the curtains are flapping.
Oh, look, there's something out there.
Distance.
That bit with the window there, is it Ghostbusters 2 where the baby gets taken, Sigourney's baby comes in through the windows, the old woman one, isn't it?
Yes, Janusz, disguised as the nanny.
That's it, yeah.
Oh, Polidori's sleepwalking.
He's the one that doesn't sleep, is that right? So
Yeah.
he doesn't rest, he gets... Whoa.
And he walks through walls.
What the hell?
So she's keeps looping back
Meanwhile, the
round.
doctor can't get out of the room. Every time she exits, she comes back in. So there's some weird spatialness going on. So this house is clearly not quite what it seems.
Well, the house doesn't want her to do something.
Yeah. Look at that.
These
that
guys
is so
can't get off the
nicely
stairs.
lit.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is where we have long moments of silence while we're watching this again, isn't it?
Yeah.
So Graham can't shake off these two freaky figures either, can he? These apparent ghosts. Thinks I'm seeing dead people.
So is this space-time sort of folding in on itself?
Not quite, although it's not far off that, I don't think.
Or is it a nexus point where different space-time intersects?
Not quite that either.
Damn it!
Good effort, though.
Good effort. 4 out of 10.
Yeah, the ghosts thing. So that's
something
never...
is messing around with.
Yeah.
It's the topography of the house, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or the
or
what people think they're seeing. I think is probably more accurate.
I read online that because the ghosts that Graham sees never really get explained, and apparently sometimes people who are in remission from cancer see things. Sometimes
really?
I read, so it was a theory that maybe it was a kind of a cancer storyline related thing,
he just sees ghosts,
or that, But I think
freaky walls.
It adds to it all.
Mrs. Doctor again. I love that. He emerged from the wall like a phantom. So you can imagine now if this was actually happening to a bunch of 20-year-olds, it would be totally freaking them out, wouldn't it? You know, because everything is here that would just start them thinking about the horrors of the supernatural.
Byron's not giving up on the Doctor, is he?
No,
and he's determined.
He's all brash and confident, and when he gets scared, he literally puts Mary in front of him. Yeah.
And he put, what was her name? Is her name Clara? There?
Is that... Oh,
the
not
other girl?
Mary.
He hid behind her just there, didn't he?
Yeah. And the Doctor's slightly telling him off for being a lech.
Oh.
Claire Claremont, that's her name, that's her character name. It's something like that. Put your hand through the wall, Doctor.
He is asleep, so he can't see the illusion
that's it, exactly, yeah. So he's got the house mapped into his subconsciousness anyway, so the walls that are not walls. Yeah, that's Mary Shelley there, isn't it?
Say again, the effects in this are bloody astounding. I mean, everything from the titles to the sort of just the going through the wall stuff. I don't think Doctor Who ever looked better. Stories, but it never looked better than this. I mean, Capaldi's era was bloody brilliant. But I think
this kind of ratchets it up a bit to another scale, doesn't it?
I agree. I've always said that the show never looked better than anything in this era. The effects, the way it was shot and lit, and the lenses that they used, and the whole thing.
You can't fault it. at all. I mean, you can't fault this.
Ooh, that's grim, isn't it? No, you're right. Do you know, I remember when Series 11 went out, and that first shot, even on the hills above Sheffield, I thought, the least sci-fi shot of all. Yeah. But it looked absolutely gorgeous.
Big crane shot, the sun rising or setting, whichever one.
The sun, just the quality of it was just incredible. So this is where things start closing down on them now. So what, those camper elements are pretty much gone, he says, as Jodie does a brilliant moment. And we have self-animated bones in a bell jar, a couple of bell jars, which again, pure hammer, pure Edgar Allan Burroughs, what's his name? Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
But again, all of that stuff comes back to this moment in time, doesn't it? The birth of the Frankenstein story.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you can write any cliche you like.
Caught up in the romantic movement, isn't it? And the gothic horror and all the stuff came with it. It's amazing.
Right that when
so many of these sort of tropes that we have now, like Dracula and all the other stuff, are kind of like basically creations of this era, but they're so now entrenched that we forget.
I know, that's it. Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many of them yet to be born at this point in time.
When Frankenstein first came out, it was it being written by a woman was downplayed, I think, wasn't it? Because it was such a shocking book, and they sort of, a woman can't have written this sort of thing, and it was a little while before her name was put on it properly, I think. So they can't see that clearly, can they?
Okay.
So there we go.
Yeah, you're right, Jeff. Yeah, she didn't really get the respect that she deserved.
No.
It's riffing. It feels like it's riffing slightly off the 11th.
Cyberman, but you don't see it properly until... Oh yes, that was Jack's warning, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. The tension in this story now is absolutely.
It's a little bit like Fugitive of the Jadoon, isn't it? It starts off one thing and then switches and turns into something totally different.
And it continues switching as well. It continues piling on, horror after horror, tension upon tension, and the threat just increases.
You still haven't had a great look at his face there either, so he could just be a normal Cyberman at the moment. There's a vague mention of Bill Potts later, isn't there?
It's interesting. I'm feeling some vibes of the 11th Doctor house story with the traveller lost. And I'm kind of hoping it's not too similar to that, but.
No.
That sort of idea of a ghost being someone caught in a time stream moving through, I'll be slightly disappointed if it kind of turns out to be...
I like Kide, that's a good one.
Yeah. I like the way it's presented more than the actual story of it, I think.
Yes, I had an interesting discussion about this one the other day with somebody that I think, and I know a lot of people like Ashad as a concept, but for me, the minute you portray the Cybermen as a bloke in a suit, which this kind of does, it diminishes them a little bit.
Ooh, that's an interesting point.
In a way that I've always thought that the robotic-looking Cybermen that don't have anything organic don't quite work as effective. For me, I can
understand. Yeah.
The fact that you can see his sort of face inside the cyber helmet just kind of, for me, implies that it is a bloke in a suit. And that's a shame, because I think the Cybermen are the most terrifying when you see he's got a real arm as well under all that plastic. So that's a nod to the original Cyberman.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, and for me, actually, I think the Cybermen are more horrific when you can see that they have organic parts of them. You know, it's the reminder that they're like us, that they started like us. We could become them, and they're the kind of mantra that they used to throw at the second Doctor: "You will be like us." You know, that kind of thing. You know, it's almost like, you know, whatever future humanity goes down, you're going to become Cybermen, or at least that's what they want us to imply.
I do agree, but I think you've got to caveat that with know implants and the replacement parts that doesn't necessarily happen here. But as I say, it's a personal thing.
Of course, yeah.
You know, he's kind of got a real hand and a real arm, and a sort of Mark I Cyberman arm going on there, and then he's got these. Like, I think if there was a bit more RoboCop there, and you kind of got his face as if it had been stretched over something else.
I don't know, because I mean, for me, he's an absolute psycho. This guy as well.
He's a total bastard.
He really is. He's a failed Cyberman, isn't he? And he's kind of got himself into a sort of cultish mindset. He believes he's born again for a reason, that he's doing what he is to. Which is totally sociopathic, and he's dangerous. He's so dangerous because he thinks it doesn't give value to anything else. There is no kind of remorse. There is no redemption in this person as well. And I think if he was completely robotic looking, you'd think, okay, well, he's a malfunctioning robot or something like that. But no, he's a malfunctioning person. He's a person. You know, he could be us. We can see that he's human, despite all the plastic and the metal and everything else. There is a bloke in here who could just be one of us, and he's a total freaking psycho. You know, the Cybermen didn't make him a psycho. He always was. They've kind of, being the Cyberman has kind of empowered him. It's given him that kind of divine objective that he perhaps felt he needed, and which he's kind of running with. So it makes him absolutely the biggest threat I think we've seen in Doctor for a long time.
Was astounding. I mean, they when the chap came in who played him to get scanned, they even made him put his sort of silver contact lens.
Oh really? Patrick,
and it was incredibly uncomfortable. And Rob Alsop was the props guy that designed these and the other Cybermen that sort of came along later, which were brilliant. Except the Time Lord ones.
I think you summed him up really well there, Paul. I like that you can see the face and the human arm, and he's kind of halfway done and but fully into it all as a Cyberman and just a psycho. Yeah. And this is proper creepy under here as well, isn't it? I've been listening.
Sorry, go on.
I've been listening to the Quintessence, which is a Third Doctor Big Finish with Katie Manning when she's Jo Jones. So it's when they've met later on in her life.
It's good, isn't it?
It is really good. I'm probably about halfway through, but it's a Cyberman story, and it's the descriptions of them in it and stuff are horrific, and. I've been really enjoying it. It's for something that's that kind of dark and horrible, it's really good.
It's a bit of a John Lumick thing going on there with the 6 cable attachments on his back.
Yeah, I like his voice as well. So this room here with all the notes and the sketchings on the wall is proper lunatics room, isn't it?
It is again. It's Bram Stoker, it's Edgar Allan Poe, it's all of that kind of stuff. It's brilliant. And they're quoting Shelley's words, aren't they? which just kind of
just
because
adds. He's aware of who he is and what he is.
They're kind of linked without giving too much away.
It feels like it's going to be a case of sort of real life mirroring fiction, which I'm guessing is the story.
A bit, yeah.
See, and another thing I like about this actually as well, just thinking about it, is the fact we get some really good confrontations between Jodie and Ashad, don't we? You know, she's face on with the monster in this, you know, and gives him hell for her as well. You know, she doesn't take his bullshit lying down.
It's a minor complaint. Why would the Cybermen have silver teeth? Did they have terrible gums?
I think they had them in Attack of the Cybermen as well, didn't they? In you know, the half converted guys in that. And in Earthshot they got silver chins as well, don't they? You see the chins through their helmets.
You could see there was something organic, but the silver teeth seems a bit like
cyber grill.
Maybe the bones are replaced with. What's that?
Cyber grill. Don't you call it a grill when you get your teeth done? Like that, you know, gold teeth, gold grill. He's got a cyber grill.
Maybe the bones are replaced with something metallic and stronger, perhaps, and it comes out through the teeth.
It's probably just me, but if that had been a sort of half zombified sort of skull, you know, with the eye socket replaced by something cybery, and the vocal cords just sort of moving, you know, like when you have your vocal cords damaged and they have something that's kind of meh. It kind of, I don't know. It's a bloke in a suit. I'm sorry. That's all I see. It's a bloke in a suit. He's playing it being a Cyberman, but he's not doing it for me.
Ow! I don't know what to say. You know?
He's not doing it for me. I mean, if they'd given him a green screen arm and had like the old Furiosa kind of Terminator arm, I would have been like, yeah, bang on.
But he's brutal. I mean, look at this guy. He's an absolute nutter. You know, it's like I see. One thing I do like about this era is the fact that the monsters are human. Do you know what I mean? And there's no disguising them. You know, they try to disguise themselves. Perhaps this guy, you know, he's putting himself out there as some kind of reborn Cyberman hybrid type thing. But at the end of the day, he is just a guy, and he's absolutely dangerous because of that. Because he is human.
I get that 100%. Is he a Cyberman? And I would argue he's not. He's a bloke in a cyber suit. He's not a Cyberman.
He doesn't behave like a lot of Cybermen. Give him that. I'll give you that, because he's much more emotionally driven, emotionally charged than they tend to be.
Did say there, you know, you haven't got your inhibitor chips and stuff sort of in there.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Oh, this is back more into the sort of Nightmare in Silver kind of Cybermanites territory.
Oh, there was that jar.
Down that route, then why would the nanomites stop at just sort of part cyberization? So you've got a couple of questions.
See this explanation of some of the ghostly activity with Shelley trying to make himself known, and they couldn't see him. He was slightly out. Slightly out of phase.
Yeah.
So he's now got this cyber thing inside his head, hasn't he, Shelley?
Yeah.
He calls it Quicksilver.
Which one?
Almost reminds me of that moment in Lord of the Rings when Gollum finds the ring in the water.
So Quicksilver was the old name for Mercury, so that kind of makes sense, I suppose.
Yeah. But it's a cyber AI, isn't it? It's got
and that's
all the knowledge
and
future history of the Cybermen.
Yeah.
And it's inside Shelley. The Cyberium, that's it. Yeah.
So this is interesting. This sounds like he's harking back to the Cyber Wars.
Yeah.
So he can use the Cyberium to sort of keep Ashad away, can't he? For a time.
Yeah.
But again, Ashad is so driven, so strong mentally, you know, so focused on what he wants. So you kind of get the feeling there isn't much going to hold him back.
To change the past. which is a bit of a rip-off of Fear the Dark. But I'll let them off.
That's kind of a Doctor Who staple in a way, though, isn't it?
Yes.
So they're all trapped down here.
Yeah.
So we're almost in like base under siege territory now, aren't we? You know,
this is because, well, I've only seen 2 stories so far, but it's a bit of a trope, isn't it? They're sort of like, we're all stuck in a crypt.
The threat from outside.
Yeah, it's true. And the 2 you've watched with us, yeah, they're both
good point.
Got a bit of base under siege. Yeah, this is Cello under siege.
This is just one monster, though, isn't it? You know, whereas Orphan 55, they were surrounded by.
Where's the coal chute? Why can't they get out of the coal chute?
See, this is great. Now, this is the Doctor getting really, really angry with Ryan at this now. You know, the fact that all the decision making now, it has to come down to her.
But that's important point, that fixed points thing. Like famous people, famous historical people, you cannot allow them to die or their personal history be changed. Otherwise, it all falls apart.
It changes what we know, doesn't it?
Because if you do that, you end up with Mavity.
Yes.
Don't even start. Don't even go down that route. But I like that, because this is the upset of the...
Mavity.
Say again.
This is the end of that flat team structure, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes
I think it was a marvellous idea.
Oh. Stop. He's back.
Yeah, so the Doctor has to make well, she's got 2 options really, isn't she?
How is he managing to focus on them?
Ooh. So now we get Shelley standing up to him, don't we?
Yeah.
And she's strong as well, isn't she? You know, there's a lot of strong women in this.
Yeah.
But again, she brings out the worst in him, you know, with her confrontation. It's almost like, you know, being face to face with the monster like this for Shelley. You know, it seems to spark something inside her. It's kind of a strength.
For suits,
and a vision.
Are ye a bloke in a suit?
He's not going to give that up, is he, Jeff?
No, I'm not giving that one up. It doesn't mean I'm not enjoying it.
It's all right.
Thinking it's very...
It's a bloke in a suit. I'll give you that. It is, but I like the bloke in the suit, so we're good. See, now we kind of think here that perhaps Mary Shelley has actually got through to him.
Yeah.
That there's a flicker of emotion. He spared her baby child after all. But then the reasons for him doing so, because he was a runt.
One thing sickly. I will say is that I
weak.
I think what's not as obvious here as it was when you saw the costume up close, and I'm not sure why, but the way they had done his makeup, he did look cadaverous. He did look like he was a dead man.
Yeah,
right.
So he did not look. But it's one of the interesting things about this is, again, he doesn't look like that classic sort of. For me, Cyberman, it's a dead thing in a suit.
Yeah.
I know they kind of bolted stuff on and stuff, but essentially, oh, blimey! What the hell is going on there? Oh, so the Siberian, is that like a Gestalt entity or something?
It's like the AI
it's
of
cyber AI, isn't it?
Yeah, the
Cyber
history
AI.
of future of the Cybermen, and he wants it, but they fight over it. Oh,
I'm not sure that
is that a mistake?
Sorry, this is probably really boring to listen to at the moment.
But we're enjoying it. Everyone's
quiet. If you're watching along with us in real time of this, you're probably not listening to us anyway, because you're just so wrapped up in the story. Because this is the point when it's all kicking off, isn't it?
Yeah.
And no matter how many times I watch this, I always end up just becoming completely wrapped up with it. I honestly think
my washing machine is on full spin. It's ramping up the drama.
Is that what that is? He takes it and he's gone. Oh
dear. He's gone.
Tactical error number 1.
Yes. Is it Praxius before this, Paul? Because at the end of that, she says that they're like, "Where are we going to go next?" And she says, "How about we go visit Mary Shelley?" Or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah. Was it Praxius before? Or was there?
Or was it Can You Hear Me?
Was there one after that? Can You Hear Me? It was. Yeah. And before this one.
Just a little comment there at the end that leads into it.
And now, of course, we get the lead in to the next story, the big climactic finale of this series. One of the things I like about this part as well, and I think we might have talked over it, was that the Cybermen and the Doctor have this very complex and quite catastrophic relationship, don't they? Because you said there, Jeff, she mentions Bill, which she does, and obviously Bill was destroyed by Cybermen, became the Cybermen, and of course we have Adric as well. You know, the one of the biggest companion deaths that actually meant something, you know, to the Doctor, and she still carries that kind of trauma. So
I think that's the interesting thing, though. I don't know if you've ever read David Banks' book, which was done sort of mid-80s, but his postulation was that essentially Mondas, and obviously a parallel Earth, but leaving that out of the equation for a second, his postulation was that Mondas kind of exited, the twin planet exited orbit, and the Cybermen had various ways, and although it's explicitly spare parts, that it's kind of like one possible option where they're basically trying to create engines for the planet and take it back to the Earth, which then basically leads us into the first Doctor story. But the postulation is that there were offshoots of that cyber race, the cyber nomads, that basically went out to the galaxy to kind of create and expand the cyber race, essentially. And that's the bit you don't kind of get in spare parts. So in spare parts kind of leads you up to the point where you think everything's fine, the Doctor and Nissa bugger off, and you've basically got the Mondas continuing on his way. You think the Cybermen are dead, and then Zheng turns up and basically says, "We're going to restart all the production." And then, but the nice thing about that is it kind of means that, you know, the Doctor encountering the Cybermen on the edge of a black hole could still happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could still happen. All these little offshoots of the cyber race. The whole philosophy is, you know, the cyber wars could happen, but that's the reason they kind of keep coming back, which I quite like, is the fact that they kind of exited Mondas. Some stayed, some went, some left, some...
Yeah, and they sort of spread out, and
they spread out.
Some ended up on Planet 14 and what have you. There's that kind of family tree almost, isn't there? I can see it in the book. You know, where it's kind of drawn, isn't it, with all the different types of Cybermen, with, you know, some from over here, some from over there, some from Mondas, like you said.
Exactly, and it's the reason that they sort of evolved the look, because in some places the technology has marched on, and in some places the technology kind of went down a cul-de-sac and became a bit more primitive. So, and I quite like, you know.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, which again, it's like no matter, it kind of shows the Cybermen as a sort of fixed inevitability of some form of humanity, because don't forget, the Cybermen, they're always human in form, aren't they? They're never something else. I think the only time we saw cyber something else is Cybermats, which are manufactured, and the Cyberdog things in that story.
Shades,
the Shades, which again are manufactured, right? They're created by Cybermen. So the Cybermen are always very recognisably human in form. So no matter where the Doctor goes, or no matter how humanity develops, or in wherever in the universe, it's almost like there are always Cybermen waiting.
Yeah.
Which is
and as a product of technology.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, sorry, at the end there, which we talked over, I thought it was quite interesting. Without sort of moralising, it was quite nice that everybody had kind of come out of that experience a little bit changed.
Yeah.
So that was quite...
And Mary Shelley ready to write the story of a lifetime.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I hope you somewhat liked it, Al.
I did. Sorry, I don't. I did. I thought production values fabulous. I thought I've said it a ton of times. In terms of Doctor Who, the program, it never looked better. Questions I still have that hangover from the last time is I still think the Doctor's costume is naff. I just don't think it's particularly cool. No matter how you dress it up, it just looks not cool in a way that almost every other Doctor Who costume.
What? Not even with the plume helmet that she had.
So I still have questions for that. I like the basis of the story, albeit I'm very much of the opinion. But timey-wimey, Paul McGann might have met the Silver Turk and he might not have remembered it, and it might be a sort of slight alt-Earth thing. So I don't even have too much of an interest in that. I thought the story was, for the most part, pretty good, albeit it did riff off a couple of other stories, you could argue. But again, I don't... You can forgive that a little bit because there's quite a lot of Doctor Who that riffs off itself from time to time. So I don't know. I like the historical and social context that everything was done in. Did I like Ashad? No, I think he's not classically a Cyberman, and I don't get the threat. And it's weird. I will go back and re-listen to it with the sound because I don't get, and for that reason, I don't get the threat. I don't get the threat and the horror that I felt I was gonna get, because the whole trope of the leading into this and the whole sort of feeling of it was we were gonna get something quite sort of horrific and a bit kind of in the way that what's the best example I can think of? Best example is probably something like Image of the Fendal. There's certain points in that thing where you're like, Jesus Christ, just that note of the sort of like going grrr, that low level bass note.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Distinctly uncomfortable. I didn't get that from this because it literally felt like a bloke in a suit thundering around. So that bit didn't resonate, but on looks, context, everything else, I'd give that a solid 8 because it's the best I've seen.
Solid 8.
I'll take that.
You can take that.
100% agree. That's the best I've seen the 13th Doctor look and feel and sound.
Yeah, excellent.
Progress. We're getting there.
Progress.
Slowly but sure. Shove it down his throat.
Yeah, I don't think the main villain was up to snuff at all. But everything else. And I still look, I look at the production values on it, and I just go, oh my God. It's
pretty good, isn't it?
It's pretty damn fabulous.
I've got
damn fabulous.
I've got some comments to read, and we've got a voice note, but I do have a picture where you can see Jodie's outfit, which I could send you, just if you wanted to look at it.
Yeah, send that.
So Tony Filer says the pre-credits.
He knows nothing. He's a dick. You're probably right.
No one says that.
No one says that. No. If they do, we throw them in the bin.
Hide. Tony says the pre-credit shocker was a touch cheesy, but the growing creep factor of the apparition and Ashad's impact make it properly creepy. The snappy Doctor and her not-so-flat leadership structure was a brilliant character moment too.
I would agree with all that. The Doctor felt like she was in control a lot of the time, which I hadn't picked up at all. I agree with him about the pre-credit sequence. It was kind of spoiled by that carry-on screaming bit. I think that would have been pretty cool. if they hadn't kind of gone the comedy route.
Yeah, it sort of softens it all a little bit.
I like that.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Yeah,
because
I like that.
That is what makes, for me anyway, that's what makes Doctor Who different from a lot of other serious, dramatic sci-fi, supernatural shows or whatever. You know, the fact that it's not unafraid to poke a little bit of fun at itself. You know, to go down the punchline and just have a little bit of fun here and there. And for me, as long as it can do that and it can deliver the thrills and the spills and the scares and, you know, increase the stakes and have me sitting on the edge of the seat chewing my fingernails, which I do with this story. I think, honestly, I think this story's got all of that stuff in abundance.
I would 100% say the first, depends how many acts you're talking, but I would say the first couple of acts, brilliant. I think it goes slightly off the rails in this third and the fourth, but that's probably due to my hang up with Ashad
because you can't get through the man in the suit.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah. Once he's the big
once you see that, that's it. It's all over, mate. It's
all
dead
over,
to me now.
Yeah.
I don't think it's horrible. I just
no, but you know, not everything works for everyone, does it? You know, so
no, exactly.
You know,
exactly.
It's cool.
And like I say, I loved a hell of a lot of that. I thought that was really good.
Good.
I thought it was good.
So Benoit Blank's bestie says most of the episode is exactly what I want from Doctor Who. My only disappointment was that it led into the finale. I think it harms the episode a bit. However, I still think it's amazing. Ian Banks says I love the portrayal of Byron as the edgelord he was. I don't know what I don't know what an edgelord is.
Edgelord. Yeah, I don't know what that is, but
cool. But he's
maybe
not.
it's an Antipodean thing.
Yeah, Ian.
He's a dude. Yeah.
Let us know. The story is terrific, and even though I'm not a fan of quote-unquote an alien-inspired this amazing work done by humans historical stories, the scene between Mary Shelley and Ashad is superb.
Yeah, 100%.
Gaze in Space says Jodie's performance in this episode was incredible. The scene in the cellar with Ryan and how we saw the hardness the Doctor had hidden behind her happy-go-lucky exterior.
Right, so that's what they raise is and it's back to the bloke in the suit thing, and I'm not letting it rest. But I'm not letting it rest for a specific reason,
which is coffee everywhere.
Which is, I think that person made a brilliant comment, which is, I don't get the relationship between her seeing Ashad and her suddenly going, "Oh, a man made of parts," because if you think of the historical and social context, essentially he's a mechanical man. He's not a part man. And that goes back to my thing of it's a bloke in a suit. I think if we'd seen less cyberization and more bits as if he was a bit more of a mishmash of components, I think you could sort of say, well, there's a brilliant inspiration there for a man, you know, and had he been struck by lightning and kind of animated at the beginning again, it would maybe kind of just feed into that thing. I think it's a little, so that might be one of the reasons I have an issue with it. It's maybe a little bit removed from the Frankenstein story for me. I thought their point was really in that effect.
I see where you're coming from. I mean, obviously, I completely disagree with you, but because I like the fact it's removed from it. Because I think if it had literally been an assemblage of parts animated by lightning, and then Mary Shelley suddenly goes, "Oh, I'll make a story out of that," I think for me. All right, I know I'm probably making it a lot more crass and crude than you're saying, but you know what I mean? For me, that would be say like, oh, well, obviously she's going to do that. It's just so expected, you know, and I like to be challenged by something I didn't expect. And I must admit, the thing that really got me in this story, and still does, is Ashad just being a bloke, being a total psycho human, you know, with just happens to be part cyberized. But the fact he's recognisably human makes him 100% more scary, more terrifying, because he could be any one of us. He could be walking among us, as we know they are. You know, we see these, you know, these absolute nutters, you know, in the news who do horrific things. This is that guy, you know, and they're not covering him over in a mask. They're exposing him and saying, "This is what we can do. We don't need to be a Cyberman to be the monster."
Given talents of Wang Chiang, should Henry Gordon Jago have written Phantom of the Opera 400 years?
Yeah.
I wonder. Or 200 years too early.
100 years. When was Phantom of the Opera written?
I don't know.
Actually, I would know. I thought it was pre.
It's probably French, actually. I suspect.
I think it is.
Yeah, it is.
Very good thing. That is a very good point. It's a good counterpoint. Do you make it explicit or do you make it sort of? In this case, I would favour explicit because I think it didn't work the other way. But I 100% get that you don't want to make it like her talent didn't just come up with that. So
I think it's the choices you make when you're creating a story like this of its nature, isn't it? I think you go down this route, you go down that route, and you go down that route, you follow the logic of the avenue you chose, I guess.
Doctor Who should always be touching history, but not necessarily enforcing history.
But it does both, though, doesn't it? It'll be quite subtle in some ways, and other times it'll be right in your face. It's almost like whatever we think Doctor Who is, there'll be another story come along that just utterly breaks it and goes against everything we loved about that particular something, which is one of the reasons again why I always keep watching it, because I always am surprised, regardless.
It's also one of the reasons, though, I think there's a danger in kind of always, I always hark back to the Tom Baker years, and he kind of buggered off, and he was in space a lot, a new planet, and you can do parodies of those Earthbound stories, like you can do the Frankenstein thing on a different planet.
Like Brandon Morbius.
I think the danger of constantly doing historical kind of like he's meeting Mary Shelley. He's meeting Alexander Gordon Alexander Fleming. He's kind of he's meeting whatever. There's a danger that the Doctor is kind of in every moment in history, which some people might argue he is.
They probably are anyway. Yeah, exactly.
But with all the time and space out there, I think Mary Shelley, had you set that story. It probably won't work, but had you set that story on a different planet and kind of sort of parallel Earth or a settlement in the future or whatever you might, but I just find the constant sort of dipping into history kind of can for me, again it's only me, but it's the law of diminishing returns really, that you kind of think, oh Jesus, where did we
see, I look at it as going back further than the Tom Baker era. So it's almost like, and I mean, one of the things Chris Chibnall said to us was that he's almost consciously starting from scratch. And when you look at the original show notes, to have those historical episodes set within history, so our TARDIS crew are experiencing that history firsthand. When you look at things like the Aztecs and the Reign of Terror and Marco Polo, those stories where they intersperse with stories like the Daleks and the Keys of Marinus and the Sensorites and stuff like that. It's and I think what this era did is cycle those stories just as much as they did back in 1963-64. And again, it's just another thing that it's almost like here's a side of Doctor Who that we've only ever really sort of touched upon until because the historical stories got washed away, didn't they, with in the sort of 70s and 80s. They just weren't done at all, and even towards the end of the 60s they were more or less
with the exception
forgotten
of
about
the Pterolepta one with
Visitation.
Well, Black Orchid technically, because Pterolepta one still has sci-fi elements, doesn't it? So those sort of things.
I thought Black Orchid was a great. I really enjoyed it.
I hate it. I still can't watch it. I do. Yeah, I just don't like it. What's
the reasoning for that then? Is it just?
Well, I remember when I first watched it, and I was quite young, and I just thought it was really, really dull, really boring, and I've never been able to watch it since. The thing I do like about it is the regulars in there. I think are great, and there's a moment where they're in a garden party on the Cranley estate, and they're just having a bit of banter and a bit of fun. They're sort of dancing, they're doing a bit of Charleston, and Adric's trying to steal all the food and stuff like that. I love that bit, but the rest of it can go in the skip.
I know what you mean. It's not well paced. I agree with you on that,
and it's only 2 episodes. It's only like 50 minutes long in total.
It's a bit perambulatory. Is that the right word? Like
it plods. It's plodding.
You could
plods.
It's
and I found with this, when I was watching it, I could guess what was going to happen next, near enough. And it was like, and I think, I don't know, well, how old was I when that came out? 12, something like that, maybe, thereabouts. And I just But I know a lot of people love it, and they love it for reasons that I hate it. So
I really like it because, again, I can draw a line between Black Orchid and the like of the Seventh Doctor story, Ghostlight.
Okay, that's interesting.
I see a very distinct connection between.
Oh, I've never thought of that.
Those two, in the sense of, there's a sort of mythical, the Indian and or the sort of Aztec guy in the. There's I don't know. There's a bit of connection there that I kind of get. So I get that. I don't hate it. I enjoy that story. But it couldn't have been longer than 2 episodes. That would have been
it would have been really plodding.
Pacing is slow, especially.
I think it is there, and it's not directed particularly in a way that helps it either. I think naturally it is a slow story, and I can take a slow story provided there's enough to keep me interested. There's a lot of texture, a lot of richness.
No, I mean some of the stuff with the Doctor playing cricket and stuff. I know it was his character and it was his costume, but
that's it. Yeah, let's identify this Doctor as a cricket player. Justify the costume.
And
didn't need that.
And it's also set in an era where there was barely enough for 2 people in the TARDIS crew to do.
Let alone 4. Exactly.
You had 4 people being carted around in a fairly linear story, and it's kind of like, oh, Nissa has a double. Really?
We were saying, weren't we? It's like there's so many stories where at least one of them gets sidelined for much of the story. Kinder Nissa's out of it; she's asleep under a tree.
Stealing food.
Visitation. Adric's just running through the woods for most of the visitation, isn't he? He's just running backwards and forwards, getting chased by horny villagers through the woods. Anyway, have we got a few more comments there, Jeff?
Yes, let me rattle through a few of these. Seth Lucas Hines says it's a deeply eerie episode with some of Whittaker's best acting as the Doctor and a fearsome antagonist in Ashad. But it focuses too much on Shelley when this should be Mary's story, and the ghost red herring is contrived. Ken Holtzhauser says the standout scene for me is the Doctor, who had been pushing a flat team structure for the last few seasons, pushing against that and giving her companions a glimpse at her Olympian viewpoint.
I said that. I agree with that.
Amy says Ashad came across as really threatening and scary, and I love that. Bertie Odell said a wonderful episode. It's got everything: fabulous production, bit of Thasmin, great moments of humour, then it slides into pure gothic horror with a helping of sci-fi. Patrick O'Kane's Ashad is chilling, best villain in years. And then most of these comments, I'm just going to kind of skim through a few of them.
There's a lot of them, isn't there?
Yeah, we did get a lot on this. Oscar Groucho says one of the standouts of the era, a Cyberman recast as Frankenstein's monster, a mishmash of body horror and forgotten humanity adrift in a period drama. Jacob said it's the best ep of Jodie's era to me. JWC Review says the best story of the Jodie era, which I didn't like. I nearly blocked him for that. With
the brave man to come on and make that kind of statement.
With us,
we don't mind. We can take negative comments, can't we? As long as they're not just outright rude.
With the fantastic character of Ashad serving as the inspiration for Frankenstein. Michael Mosen says perfect from start to finish. And then over on Facebook, Margie Blaker said excellent episode. Johnny Gray said love this. 13 was the queen of historical episodes. Eleanor Jodie, is it Alashowski? Yeah, she says not just one of 13's best, but one of New Who's best.
Yes,
but one of the very best episodes ever in the history of Who. Funky/dorky. It's intriguing, terrifying. Lone Cyberman is one of New Who's best creations, a masterpiece. If I was running a course on how to make great Doctor Who, this would be an essential part of the viewing.
This would be on the list.
That's it. Michelle Arnold says, I love this episode, does such a good job of building tension, and the scene where Yaz opens up about her feelings for the Doctor to Claire gets me every time. Ben Thompson says a stunningly good episode in every way, and Philip Cregan says outstanding. So thank you everyone. Oh, and Paul, would you like to play the voice note that we had as well?
Yes, I will indeed. Let me just...
If anyone else would like to send voice notes to us, it's speakpipe.com/whoc2c, and then we can play them out on the episode. So
here we go.
On that note, run VT. audio tape.
Hi Jeff Bornell, this is Scott aka Gallifrey Customs, and I absolutely love this episode. It's my favourite 13th Doctor era episode. I thought the Ashad reveal was really, really cool. I liked his mask. I thought it was absolutely awesome. I wish we could see the full mask and like as a full Cyberman. And then the 13th Doctor was just incredible. I thought she was at her best. This was a more fiercer, angry, darker side, which you don't get to see much. But yeah, I really, really loved it.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Scott. Fantastic.
Brilliant. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate all those comments. So, you mentioned earlier about going back.
I'm going to get hung, drawn, and quartered for my bloke.
No, you won't, because.
Hey, no, look. I mean, you gave it a solid 8, and you know this is. I think also as well. I was watching it like this with the three of us. Isn't quite the full experience. You know what I mean? You sort of have to watch it on your own. I think with the lights down or candles. Is that just me? Is that just me who does that? I don't know.
No, I want to go back and listen to it because I was to say that I do audio down, so I didn't pick up probably some of the tone and timbre of Ashad's character. But my issues aside, you
gave it an 8. I think an 8's are good.
Yeah, but do you know what?
It looked bloody good. The story was pretty good. I can't.
And Al, I wouldn't worry. I think that everything you say is, we've watched stuff, haven't we, Paul, where we said, it didn't quite work for us. And I think there's, and you do this, you back it up with reasons. You're not at all just going, it's shit, and criticising it. You've got reasoning behind it, and I think, it's interesting to hear
it is. Definitely.
Your point of view on it, and you're very reasonable with it,
Hey, I always say the same thing. My opinion is my opinion. And
exactly. Same with me.
People disagree. I like the fact that you guys are champions of this era massively, which is part of the reason, the intrigue of me sort of coming back and rewatching them. I will watch it again and sort of see if and I'm happy to come back and give you some comments.
Well, if you watch it,
let us know next time we see it. Yeah,
if you watch it.
Again, I think Paul's point is very relevant. When you're watching something and scrutinising with hyper-critical eyes, rather than just watching it as a TV programme and enjoying it, you're probably looking for the things that are going to niggle you, rather than just accepting them. So I get that there's an aspect of that for sure.
It's a first viewing. It's it is slightly unusual. You don't normally sit around with your mates chatting like that
on a podcast.
Through an episode. But
it's fun.
If you watch it again before we reconvene for something else, and we can find out what you thought of it then. If you're second viewing,
I've got a little bit of time.
Second viewing might change your. I'm just
second time watch.
Yeah,
second time.
I'll just quickly send you that picture whilst we're.
Do you know, it's amazing how often sort of stuff you don't like initially kind of grows on you. It's happened to me a couple of times.
It's true, yeah. It's yet to happen to Black Orchid for me personally, but
do you know, I enjoyed Black Orchid when I watched it on the collection.
Particularly on that one to kind of. I don't necessarily think you're going to gain. Any more than you did the first time.
I'm not going to gain any friends with this either. With this opinion.
No, I don't like. I think I enjoyed it, but I'm not going to hang my hat on it and say,
it's the best Doctor who ever. It's nearly as good as Fort of Doomsday.
You were talking about Talons of Wang Chiang, and I absolutely love that particular story. I think it's fabulous, but there's certain things that are slightly. Kind of controversial now.
Indeed,
the hot potato
is an issue, but so is dressing somebody up and sort of pretending that they're, a Chinese guy, which they sort of did. I would argue it was more effective than maybe it could have been, but it still doesn't excuse the fact. Like for a principal role, they decided to go with a white guy rather than a Chinese.
And especially as his assistant was,
Yeah,
they have Chinese actors in it, don't they? And it's like non-speaking roles.
So by today's standards, kind of definitely go, and there's another argument which I think came across really well here tonight, which is, and again, it's back to that thing of Britain and London especially was a very cosmopolitan place, fishing port, and there was lots of people. So you know, there would have been Chinese people around. There would have been black people around. There would have been all sorts of people around in London.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fishing port, and people were coming in and people were going out, and you know, So you know, I thought that story we watched was excellent from that point of view because it gives a nice counterpoint to. And like I say, you don't have to explain it. You just
absolutely.
It's just,
everybody expects it. So.
And it's one thing I like about this era a lot is that it doesn't explain things like that. It just gets on with it. You know what I mean? It's like, well, if you want to join the dots, you do that. But meantime, we're getting on with the story.
Yeah.
You know, it's and I know that probably upsets a few people because a lot of people do like things explained. I think maybe it goes a little bit too far, but nonetheless, for me personally, I like.
No, and I don't. I think the minute you get into explaining stuff,
you just run around in circles.
Stuff.
You don't need to do it on
the challenge of Wang Chiang. You know, there is stuff that doesn't work by today's standards, but it's still a flipping brilliant story.
Still a good story.
It's a good story.
Yeah.
By the same token, you know, Villa Diodati is excellent, and it just goes straight into the story. You don't have to explain it. You know, there's no TARDIS, there's no turning up.
No, that's it.
It's classic horror stuff. They turn up in a rainstorm at the door. You know, and you've got an Asian person and a black person in there, and nobody goes, "Are you the servant?"
What a motley crew you guys are.
There's none of that kind of nonsense of, you know, having to explain away.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's brilliant. I think
it's great.
Fabulous.
So, should we do this again soon?
I think so. It's a lot of fun.
And what should we do it on?
It seems like it's been a while since we did.
When did we watch Orphan Fifth? It was a few weeks ago. You've been away, haven't you? And
I think it was a couple of months, wasn't it?
We had sort of half time.
And whilst I remember, I've texted you this a couple of times, but I need your photo now. You're probably thinking, "Oh my god, piss off."
I'm sort of the minute I shaved this sort of Atari fungus off my, off the foreign fungus off my face, I will send you a glorious.
It'll be beautiful. It'll be beautiful, won't it? Eh? Be gorgeous.
One of my twins said to me yesterday, "Your face is spiky, Daddy. Can you get rid of that before you give me another snuggle?" I said, yes.
Get rid of that.
All right. And then
your face is like sandpaper.
Yeah.
You strike a match on that. I'd make it all sick. That would. You want it served up with onions.
We were playing with Lego Mario the other day, and if you put Mario on different colours, it reacts. It's got a little screen on it, and his eyes move. I don't know if you see it. It's very good. And Ella she was putting it on things, and she went, "Daddy, what colour is your hair? Is it grey?" And I went, "Well, it is now, Ella. It used to be brown."
It's just got even greyer. The moment you said that.
Will Mario work on your hair? No, I don't think so. Will he work on mine? Mine's yellow. Yes, I think he'll probably work on yours.
It'll definitely work on you.
Yes, we'll decide what we should do next time. Maybe we haven't done any 12 for a while, but we could do some 4 or anything.
Yeah. Anything. I'm up for it. Maybe suggest a few and put them out to the voters.
Yeah.
See what the listeners decide what they'd like us to talk about.
I quite like that.
Let's do that. We'll text about it and we'll figure out a couple and put it out there. Yeah,
we'll do that. Brilliant.
Right. Well, we'll do.
I think people have their favourites and stuff, and sometimes it's quite nice to go back and. Although, to be honest, I think if anybody nominates Black Orchid, I don't know if
doesn't have to be on the list. Oh no, that one didn't make the short list. Sorry about that.
Black
it's
Orchid,
not even.
Also missing.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I mean, in fairness, I'm always up for having my preconceptions and previous opinions challenged, changed. It's not going to happen though. I've seen it enough times.
I'm going to see if I can sabotage this vote for that.
Right, well, listeners, if you're still with us, thank you for listening to this rather wonderful episode. We've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you to our wonderful guest, Mr. Al Dewar from Character Options, who joins us yet again. So thanks for that. I really appreciate your time and popping on, mate. Always good. So until next time, stay with us. We've got more things coming up, and you're going to love it, guaranteed. All right, from all of us, bye-bye for now.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.